Welcome back to the Million Dollar Landscaper Podcast. Today, we are going to be diving into a topic that's all about ending this year strong. It is now the beginning of November. The trees, at least here in Northwest Indiana, are almost done losing their leaves. There's still some out there now, but it is getting close to the end of the season. You know, many of us, if you're still doing hardscaping, you can probably wrap up the end of the year the way it's going. I was talking to somebody the other day who was in Wyoming, and they had a foot of snow. So it obviously depends on where you're at, but the end of the year is approaching quickly, and we need to be looking at what we're doing now to help us prepare for 2025. And, you know, after speaking to many people in our program, we've been hearing that it's been tougher to sell work this year. And I wanted to share with you some ways to help you really navigate through that this year and really kick your year off in 2025 with a solid plan. And today we're going to talk about how to use the information you have, the data you have to help you set realistic goals for next year. And those goals are going to help you figure out how to do your marketing, how to do your scheduling, how to create that budget that's going to help you handle whatever 2025 throws at you. Plus, you know, we've got a few other tips on pricing and how to avoid some of those common pitfalls. So you're not going to want to miss this episode. All right, so let's first kick things off by understanding your data, the information that you have. And I was actually chatting with a client of ours the other day, and they shared with me their profit and loss statement. So it went from January to October, and we're looking at the numbers. And, you know, going down a profit and loss statement here, kind of stay with me here if you can, but visualize, you know, the top is going to be your sales, your revenue that you're bringing in. Below that are going to be what's considered your COGS. That is going to be your cost of materials, your labor. It could be dumpster rental, equipment rental. It could be some of your equipment in there if you had it that way. And then below that it's going to do the subtraction. So you have your revenue minus your COGS is going to be your gross profit. And if you look at that number, they look like they're doing pretty well. They were close to the 50% mark. I forgot off the top of my head. It was like 46, almost 47%. So they're doing pretty well. Obviously, there could be some improvement, but that is where most people stop. They look at that, they hear the industry, they shoot for 50% gross profit, you're good. However, if that's all you looked at, this person in particular, they were shorting themselves. They, again, 50%, close to 50%, they thought they were doing well, but then they started seeing the money they had in the bank. They started going down and looking a little bit more on the bottom of that profit and loss statement. They were not doing well. I think they're a little over 1% net profit. And this is where I stress over and over, you have to understand your business. You have to be looking at numbers and figuring out what can you do based on this data. This is why data is so important. Because if you just look at that gross profit margin and looking at your jobs and just doing the quick math on it, you're like, oh, I'm doing really good. I don't have any money at the bank. I'm not taking the paycheck. I can barely pay my people, whatever it is. You have to be looking at your data. And this is why, I'm going to stress to the day I die, you need to be looking at your profit and loss statement every single month and understanding what, just in the basic things, understand what they are and that's going to help you interpret how to make plans to improve things in the future. And the other thing I want to stress to many people, and this is something that I was guilty of a long time ago, was we've been busting our ass all season long. You know, it's getting the end of the year. I'm ready just to kind of take a break and kind of chill out. Here in Indiana, we have snow season, so it's kind of we're taking a break a little bit from some of the clients. We did some snow plowing, but we could take a break from overall and just kind of chill out and relax. And that is the worst thing you could do. The reason why that's the worst thing you could do is typically most landscapers, if you look at all the numbers that goes into running your business, there is a break-even point, meaning that you paid for all your materials, you paid for all your labor, you paid for all your overhead. And once that hits is equal with your sales that you know, all the stuff that you do, your sales and your revenue, whatever you want to call it, equals out. That's your break-even point. And typically, it usually happens for most landscapers either September, October, November, somewhere in there is where most landscapers are hitting that break-even point. which means anything after that break-even point is what I would call a true profit. And this is where, again, if you didn't understand numbers, you don't understand those things, you're never going to understand where your break-even point. So sooner we can break even, if we can get done in September, early September, that leaves us a good chunk of time to put more money into the bank, to do reinvestments, to purchase equipment, to take a better draw for your business, for yourself, whatever it is. You have to understand those numbers. So again, we have to be able to look at this data and understand how to distinguish it, how to interpret it. And again, it is a flaw just to kind of at the end of the season, just kind of let things go and just not really push for more work. Now is the time to be pushing harder than ever to get that profit, to put more money into the bank, to prepare yourself for next spring, for whatever next season brings to us. So I guess going back, I kind of got a little off tangent there. But what do I mean by year-end data? Well, it is more than just your profit and loss statement like we'd mentioned earlier. We want to dig into really service-specific profitability and take a look at what type of clients brought in really the most revenue. Now, do you have certain jobs that really made your year? Did you have, maybe a service that was really high profitability? Did you do hardscaping this year? Did you do water features or lighting? What was it that really made it worth the effort? And if this is something that you're seeing, well, maybe next year we need to plan on doing more of those. Or on the opposite side of things, did you notice jobs that just weren't as profitable? Maybe it's time to either look at those jobs and decide, well, I need to either up my prices or do I need to just get rid of that project or that service altogether? That might be something that you need to do. So that's one aspect of it. The other thing that we need to start looking at is who our clients are, and think about who brought in really the most value. Were it the clients that you did that were either residential, or were they commercial? Were they ones that booked more maintenance work, or those one-time projects, those awesome hardscaping projects? Whatever it is, we need to be looking at that and kind of understanding who our ideal client is. This is the reason for this is going to be who we're going to market to for the rest of the season and next season. And then if you're selling work, if the selling of the work has been tough this year, knowing exactly who's buying right now really is going to help you give you an edge. You can really double down on the targeting of those types of clients in 2025, like I said. And it really is going to help you save a lot of time from chasing leads that just aren't going to get you anywhere. So again, we just need to be looking at our clients. So again, the year-end data is so important. Not, like I said, it's not just the profit and loss statement. It is looking at what the specific services made you money, what types of clients made you money. So now we have an idea of some of these big data goals and data that we need to really pull from. We need to start using that data and figure out how we can set goals for 2025 that actually make sense. And I'm not just talking about revenue goals. I'm talking about the ones that going to help you get the clients you want and make more profitability and the types of services that you actually want to do. And this is something that I can recall when we started doing water features. I brought this to my dad's attention after going to a training on water features. I'm like, Dad, this is something that we need to really push in our business. And I remember him thinking, no, it's just nobody's going to pay for that around here. Nobody's going to want to do that. And being a little stubborn, I pushed through that. And I'm like, no, this is something that we're going to really push and push hard. And we did that. But it wasn't until I started kind of seeing the goals and something that I really wanted to focus on and improving on. If I didn't set that goal of doing that, it probably would never happen. I probably just went by with what my dad said and just kind of went with the status quo and just did what we did. But that's not what I wanted to do. So again, look at your services. Is it something that you really want to focus on, or is it something you need to ditch? And a kind of a great way to kind of do this is using that SMART goal framework. SMART stands for specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and going through is time bound. So make sure I got them all. And when you're doing this, it's going to help you really dive down into those things and figure out what you want to do. So if you want to increase your revenue by 15% next year, how are you going to make that happen? Are you going to focus more on selling those high profitable services, like the landscape lighting, water features, or what hardscaping or whatever? Or are you going to look into how to increase the number of maintenance clients? Whatever it is, use that SMART framework. It's really going to help you kind of dial in those types of things. And again, it's easy to set those big revenue goals without kind of breaking things down of how you're actually going to achieve it. And that's why I always recommend breaking down your goals into either doing it quarterly or doing it at least, or better yet, actually should say, is doing it quarterly, or even better yet, is doing it monthly. That's going to be one of your best things. So let's just take, for example, if your goal is to achieve an extra $50,000 in revenue next year, you need to figure out what does it look like for every single quarter? Or what does it look like for every single month? How much more in revenue do you need to add to achieve that? And then kind of break that down even further. What type of work do you need to do to achieve that, and break that down? How are you going to go from there? And that's where having those goals is good. But then think about it. How are we going to engineer that? How are we going to make that a plan that we can actually follow and get to?
We want to take a quick second to tell you about our friends over at Cycle CPA. I can't even express to you how important it is to have a good accountant on your side. You know you want accurate bookkeeping and financial statements every month. Instead, you're often left with limited time to focus on the accounting side of your business and no reports to show for it. At Cycle CPA, the landscaping accountants, they not only handle the bookkeeping, but also provide landscape industry benchmarking, job costing, financials by service line, advisory meetings, and much more. Cycle CPA has a team of landscaping accountants available to provide anything from bookkeeping to CFO services. Visit cyclecpa.com, and for $100 off, mention the $1 Million Landscaper podcast.
Are you tired of those spam calls about your online presence and website? I know you're nodding your head right now. Finding a company that knows the details about the lawn and landscape industry can be difficult. Well, I have a solution for you. Let me introduce you to Green Frog Web Design. We all know growing your business in our digital age requires an effective online presence, a website geared towards bringing in new customers. With fierce competition and a never-ending line of chucking the trucks ready to take your place, DIYing your online presence is not a serious option for growing businesses. Find a trustworthy and effective solution with Green Frog Web Design. Oh, and by the way, the first month for a new website is $1. Link is in the bio.
And again, it has been challenging this year, but I do encourage you to not always be conservative with some of your goals. Usually with some of our clients, if they say they've been doing whatever, $500,000 in sales, well, they want to kind of be modest. Like, well, I can probably get to 550. Do you think you get to 600,000? Push it a little bit further than what you think, and see how you can actually make that happen. And now I'm not saying go from 500 to a million, because there's a lot of other things that we need to look at is, do you have all the resources to kind of handle that? But we do want to kind of stretch our goals a little bit. And again, I guess kind of finishing that off with those goals, if you are bumping those up and stretching a little bit more, what do you need to look at for your labor? What do you need to look at for your equipment? Do you have enough equipment? Do you have the capacity to achieve that realistic, to achieve that goal? Is it realistic? So these are the types of things we need to look at when we're setting these goals for 2025. And kind of along with these goals, we need to be looking at a few things. We need to be looking at our pricing, and we need to be looking at our scheduling. And this is really, honestly, some of the biggest areas we see landscapers not doing correctly. And that's especially when it comes to pricing. And this is, again, why we will stress this to the day we die. You have to understand your numbers. You have to understand how to interpret those numbers to make those plans, make those adjustments throughout the year. And one of the easiest ways to do it, especially for like maintenance clients, is and this is what I did with that customer I talked to the other day. We take what our every client did, how much they did in sales, and we need to figure out, are we achieving that hourly price rate that we need to, or do we need to get rid of those customers, or do we need to up the pricing for that customer? And that's something that we sit down and go through every single customer, look at how much you spent, how much time was there, and get that hourly rate and see, does that actually stack up with what we need to be charging? This client happened to have some clients that they need to They're probably going to get rid of a couple because they're kind of a pain in the ass, they said, but they found that they were not charging enough. So, okay, well, it's time to up their prices. It might have been a year or 2 years since they've updated their prices, but let's go through that. But you have to do this, and you have to have a pricing strategy that makes sense. So we're not overpricing work because we have to get work, but we need to understand that we are covering our costs. So again, pricing based on your true numbers is one of the most important things here. Now, a couple other things I want to add in here is with your scheduling. This is something that we see people having a hard time with, and that is, you're concerned about overscheduling and having so much work that you're pushing people away. But honestly, I don't see it as being a problem, especially like for maintenance. Obviously, that's a different concern. But if you're doing hardscaping and design build type work, don't be afraid to tell customers that you're booked out 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. And don't be afraid to say no sometimes, because you can't just go out and drop this client right now and stop working here to go satisfy this client. When you have have too many jobs open, it's just going to cause a slip in quality. Your clients are going to be mad at you. Your crew's going to be mad at you because you're shuffling here to here to here instead of just staying and honing in and finishing this project, then moving on and finishing this project. And I understand there might be some things you have to adjust. It might be a rainy day, so you can't do any more here, but we're going to go over here, do a little maintenance or whatever it is. I get all that, but we need to kind of look at our schedule and don't be afraid to tell people that you are booked out. And don't be afraid to kind of overprice your work too if you're really built, if you're booked out. That to me is kind of normal thing to do. Now we're not pushing people away, but if it's busy and they really want the work, they can pay for it and they can wait for it. So just a couple things to think about. And the other thing I will say with scheduling is to give yourself a little buffer in there. And if you typically work 5 days a week, well, plan your jobs for 4 days. That way, if you have a rainy day, you have a piece of equipment breaks down, or a customer decides to add it on to that job a little bit, you give yourself a little buffer time that way you can plan the jobs out correctly. That's something I wanted to kind of throw in there too. So let's kind of shift focus a little bit to the marketing side of things. Because even with the best goals and best pricing strategy, you need to have a steady flow of customers coming in. And if 2025 is anything like 2024, you need to make sure you're reaching those right people. We need to be looking at our clients. Who are they? Are they residential? Are they commercial? Are they in high-end residential neighborhoods? Are they in just normal neighborhoods? Whatever it is, we need to be looking at that. And we need to make sure we're tweaking our website, making sure all our social media posts are speaking directly to who our ideal clients are. In this, we obviously need to be stressing the reliability and quality of services like we normally do, or maybe it's the speed and efficiency of what you offer. We need to tailor that message specifically to the clients who are going to value it the most and want you the most. The other thing that, as far as marketing, we need to focus on getting reviews and good Google reviews. This is something that's so important. When somebody's typing in landscaper near me or landscaper near whatever city or town they're in, Google reviews are going to be one of the top things they're going to be looking at. So I encourage you to really focus on getting Google reviews from every single customer. And better yet, it would be a testimonial from every single customer that you can put on your website. A video testimonial is that's the most ideal thing you can do. If you can get that, that's going to be a game changer for you. And really treat those reviews like gold. The other thing is, if you're finding it tough to compete on price alone, you need to really dive in to figure out how to express your value, how to lean into your experience. And one of the things I always share with people, because this is always concern, because there's always going to be low ballers, there always has been. I remember my dad would always complain about the low baller down the road from him. But nowadays with the social media stuff, we need to be sharing educational content on your website, on your social media posts, like, the seasonal tips or solutions to common landscaping concerns or issues, whatever it is. Building this educational information may seem kind of silly. Well, I need to be selling. Well, it is in a way. What we're doing is building trust with clients and with potential clients, I should say, and showing that you know what you're doing. You have the team, you have the equipment to handle whatever it is. The other thing I'll share with marketing is looking at how can you partner up with other local home services. This one was a game changer for us. So we partnered up with a electrical company. We partnered up with a plumbing company. So we would recommend them for any electrical needs. So when we did a pond install, we needed to have some electrical brought out. So we'd have the electrical company come out there and do the electrical for them if they wanted. The plumbing side, when we had to have for one, when we did irrigation, we'd have them plumb the stuff out to us. Or if we had to bring water out for an outdoor kitchen, we'd have them bring that out, bring the gas out. So teaming up with them worked out really good because then they would recommend us if they came across a client that needed anything. So having those home service partners was a huge thing. And having people you can trust to recommend to. We also did it with even smaller landscape companies that near us that we knew we trusted. And it actually kind of worked out in the end because the one company that we recommended clients to, they actually bought our maintenance side when we sold that off here last year, maintenance and snowplowing. When we sold that off last year, 2 years ago now, we kept pushing them. They actually came in, and when my dad decided he was done doing the maintenance and snowplowing, they're the ones that bought it. So it kind of worked out in the end really for us when we look at it that way. So again, look at who you can partner with in your area. If it's a smaller landscape company and it's projects that you don't want to do, or it's like a $2,000 project, you don't do those types of projects, recommend them. Or if it's somebody else can do mowing less than you can, recommend them. And have an agreement with them. If they have something big, they can recommend you for that. And those partnerships really worked out for me. So how do we tie all this together? We went through a lot of different things here. Now we understand our data. We understand our clients. We know how we're going to kind of market it. Now we need to create a budget for all this. We need to take all this information in and start creating a budget on what we're going to do next year for 2025. And this is the time of year we start really doing it, especially in December. This is what we do in our program. We're sitting down with our clients and we're going to be creating a budget. We have 2 days set up in our program now to help you create that budget. So we're going to be looking at not only our revenue goals, but we're going to be looking at how much you're going to spend on labor, how much you're going to spend on materials. We're going to be looking at the repairs of equipment. We're going to be looking at how much we're going to spend on that marketing to get those clients and what we're going to do. And another point, we're going to be creating a marketing plan so we can figure out that budget too. So there's a lot of planning that has to go into creating the budget, but I encourage you to sit down and figure out what's your revenue goal going to be? How much are we going to spend on labor? How much are we going to spend on our equipment and materials and stuff? And I understand some of you are like, well, I can't think about that. I have no idea what next year is going to bring. The way I look at this, and this is something I used to be like, I didn't need a plan. I didn't need a plan. But look at it this way. When you plan to take a vacation, you plan you're going to go drive across the country, go somewhere. We went to the Tetons a couple years ago. I had to plan where I'm going to go, how I'm going to get there, what stops am I going to take along the way so we can take it, to rest that night or get fuel and whatnot. We had to kind of plan some of those things out. And it's the same thing you need to do in your business, because if you don't have any plan, you don't have any direction, you don't know which way you're going to go. We planned what roads we're going to take to get to the Tetons. If I didn't do that, who knows where I would end up? That's the same thing in your business. You need to twist your mind, or you tweak your mind, I should say, into thinking in a different way and thinking about, okay, I'm going to set this goal. This is what I'm going to achieve next year. And everything goes back to that. How am I going to get that goal? How am I going to, watch my man hours? How am I going to watch how much I'm paying my crew members? How much am I going to need for equipment? We need to start budgeting all those things. And that's where putting that budget together, figuring out what your overhead is going to be. And then you can start adjusting your price strategy for next year based on all the information. So I know we went through a lot here, guys, but this is all the things that we need to be thinking about doing to plan for, one, finishing up this year strong, and to plan out for 2025. And if you guys need any help with this, feel free to reach out to us. This is something that we work with. Katie and I actually yesterday, we went to the library, we sat down, we planned out what we're going to do for 2025, some of our goals, what classes we're going to teach, what workshops we are going to be teaching. And even our Black Friday sale is going to be coming up here at the end of the month. We planned all this stuff out. We had an idea for Black Friday, but we kind of tweaked it. We actually tweaked it for a little different based on some of the things we saw happening. And this is something that we're really excited about. So make sure you stick around. You're definitely going to want to check out our Black Friday sale, especially if you need help with the budgeting and planning out your pricing strategy for next year. You're not going to want to miss this deal that's coming up. So if you guys have any questions about this, feel free to post it down in the comment section or reach out to me personally at Scott, SCOTT, at milliondollarlandscaper.com. Love to help give you guys a hand with this or answer any question you guys have about this. All right, guys. Hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.